Okay, this video is just David LaRaus by himself talking. So that's the Assistant Attorney General. That this is from an actual termination trial of my parental rights that happened in July 2022. And I only separated out the Assistant Attorney General by himself because I just wanted people to see how he was like taunting me the entire trial. And I think the only way to see that is to just take him out and his voice out by itself. And then that way you could see exactly what he was doing, because I didn't even realize it until recently. But yes, it was all intentional. So yes, my life was a game to them. So this is what the Assistant Attorney General does. And this is how they operate here in the state of Washington, in the United States. They are the attorneys for CPS, but they're also juvenile criminal prosecutors. So I'm not a defendant. I'm a parent of a juvenile. So he had no right having a trial against me at all. And I also had a baby with me at the time of the trial. So you'll hear a baby crying. That's my baby in the background. So I was like the defendant in a termination trial for my 7-year-old, while at the same time I had custody of my 1-year-old and my 19-year-old son upstairs. So basically, that's what happened. Okay. That's stressful. Okay. Why do I have to go through a termination trial when I have a baby with me? Why? That's exactly why I was so stressed out.
You've had the opportunity to appear before the court for review hearings before Judge Ramsire, correct? Well, there have been several hearings before Judge Ramsire that took place after the dependency trial. You said that your signature line was missing from the review order, but isn't it the case that you have told Judge Ramsire that you will never sign anything? And if you wanted something to happen in the case, you could have asked Judge Ramsire to order that. Is that right? Well, I'm not asking about you trying to please her, but about you asking her to order something in the case. Did you ever ask her to order something in the case? To do something for you, you'd have to ask her to do it. Well, what about when you had a lawyer? I mean, when you had a lawyer, they could have filed it to you about your concerns about Amaya attending a Christian school or being heard. There's a discussion about it. But you just said that I would like to confirm you're okay with maintaining her enrollment at that school. Then you said here she can stay in the school, but it says under federal law that the school must teach her your religion. Did you ever inform the department of what your religion was? So in this email, allowed to talk about school with Amaya? And what is his role in the dependency? Did you ever ask the department if it was okay for you to discuss Amaya's school with her? Let me look at another exhibit here, 126. And then this exhibit 139, you said that any school she goes to will sue that school.
Yep.
Why did you say that?
Because I mean it. I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
So whether the school was Christian or not, you would sue them? A series of emails in which Ms. DeCamp, now that you have said Amaya needs to be removed and changed what you said previously, we are planning to withdraw Amaya from the school, and we'll be holding a shared planning meeting to discuss that transition and how to talk with Amaya about that transition and ANNS. The department was going to hold a shared planning meeting to discuss moving Amaya out of that school and how to talk with Amaya about the transition. You didn't attend that meeting. Why didn't you attend that meeting? When she brought her back in that you weren't allowed to talk about school. How did you learn about the school? So when there was going to be this meeting to talk about how to talk with Amaya about the fact that she was being moved out of the school, why didn't you attend that meeting? No, but this letter said, okay, we're moving. The department said, okay, we're going to move her. Amaya had told you before that she wanted to stay in the school, and so you allowed her to stay there for a time.
Go ahead.
So Amaya asked to stay in the school, and you said only until the next break. Is that correct? Okay, so Amaya said, let's go through the conversation. Amaya said, since Amaya wanted to stay in the school, did you think that it was important to talk with her about why she was being moved?
Hell no. She's a child.
Did you think it was important to have some kind of discussion with her to explain why she was being moved? But wouldn't it be important for you as her mom to talk with her about why she was moving schools? So you attended a doctor appointment for Amaya last week. And what was that doctor appointment about? What was the source of this traumatic brain injury? Did you discuss at the appointment whether Amaya had a traumatic brain injury? What did the doctor say about the idea of a traumatic brain injury? Did you tell the doctor that that Amaya had a traumatic brain injury as a result of a fight with her sister? What Amaya told you in person was different from what she said at the doctor appointment? And did you point that out to the doctor? What was Amaya's reaction during your conversation with the doctor? Have you had any discussions with Amaya about her injury since the doctor appointment? You're saying that Amaya was removed because the department didn't like what you were doing in your personal life. What do you mean? In this dependency, the department has provided you with financial support, but it has been provided so far. You've been given Visa cards and gas cards to help you. Was there anything in the agreements that indicated that you could not use it to attend services? And just in case it's unclear for the record, there are occasionally periods where Ms. Zayas is speaking with her daughter, Anya, and so if there are breaks in the record that don't seem to be responsive, the record should reflect that she is taking care of Anya periodically. If your parental rights to Amaya are terminated, what impact do you think that will have on Amaya? You say Amaya has been mad at you for the last few visits. Has Amaya said why she's mad? If she's appeared to be mad to you, if it has appeared to you during visits that Amaya is mad with you, have you asked her, are you mad with me? If you saw that Amaya was mad in the last couple of visits, have you asked her about how she's feeling? You say you don't know what she thinks. Have you asked her? Do you think it will have on Amaya if your rights are terminated?
Yeah.
If your parental rights are terminated, what impact do you think that will have on Amaya? Your parental rights are terminated and you appeal and you lose the appeal. What impact do you think that will have on Amaya? Okay, but if your parental rights are terminated and you lose the appeal, what do you think the impact of that will be on Amaya? You said that you hate the department. Is there something that the department could do, change their approach in some way that would make you more agreeable to cooperate around doing services? But I would like you to answer a very simple question. Of the cases that you have worked on as a supervisor or social worker, what percentage of them have resulted in children being returned home to their parents?
For cases that have achieved permanency, approximately 50%, I would say.
Okay. Now, when you say cases that have achieved permanency, is that the same thing as children were returned home to the parents, or does it mean something different?
Children who have returned home to their parents or being adopted or placed in a guardianship. Overall, with those cases that have achieved a permanent plan out of those three options, I would say 50% have been a return home to parents.
Okay, so you're saying of the cases where a permanency plan has been achieved, 50% has been returned home, 50% has been something else. And when is permanency achieved when the case is dismissed, or is it achieved, or how is permanency achieved in your view? There are some cases, it sounds like, if I'm correct, there are cases where children have been returned home to the parent, but the case hasn't been dismissed yet. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And would those be additional cases beyond the ones you've referred to before where permanency was achieved? What percentage of your cases would you say are in a state or have where return home to the parent has been attained, but dismissal has not yet been attained? If it's, yes, please.
Okay, so at this moment, off the top of my head, out of approximately 50 children that I supervise amongst families, there are about 8 that are in a trial return home currently.
All of the cases that you have supervised or handled as a social worker yourself, can you tell me what percentage of those cases has the department filed a termination petition, if you know?
30%.
What makes, how do you decide whether to file a termination petition or return home? Pardon me. Let me follow up on one issue there. You said that it's possible for a parent to obtain sobriety without doing treatment. To verify, how does the department verify that a person is actually maintaining their sobriety if they're not engaged in treatment? Good morning, David LaRaus, AAG, representing DCYF. Thank you. Good morning, ma'am. Can you please state your name and spell it for the record? And what is your business address? And at STOP, specifically regarding substance abuse services, do you have access to, in your position, to all of the records that are retained by STOP? Yes. Regarding client participation in services? And is it your, is your access to those records necessary as part of your duties? And what kind of records does STOP keep regarding client participation in substance abuse treatment services? Does STOP have rules for how client participation in substance abuse treatment is to be recorded to ensure accuracy? And are the employees of STOP who provide that treatment, are they trained on those rules? For for substance abuse evaluation, does STOP prepare those evaluations in the regular course of its business in Kent? And are those evaluations prepared at or near the time that they are conducted with the client? Okay, so those reports are prepared by a person with knowledge of the contents and information that's put in the report. Have you checked STOP records for substance abuse evaluations performed as to Miriam Zayas at STOP? And how many evaluations did you find? Showing you, I'm sorry, this is going to take me just 1 second. I'm having a computer issue, but pardon me while I bring this up on the screen. I'd like to show you Exhibit 158, which was previously admitted into evidence. Do you see on the screen now a chemical dependency evaluation social summary? Oh, that's because I didn't hit a button. How about now? Thank you. Is this one of the, let me pan down it for a moment. As you see, it's dated April 1st, 2020. Is this one of the 2 evaluations retained by STOP regarding Ms. Zayas's evaluations at STOP? Regarding Exhibit 174, I'd like to show you this exhibit dated 12/17/2021, and I'll pan down the exhibit here. Do you recognize this document? And is this the second of the evaluations that was prepared by STOP for Ms. Zayas? And is this a true and accurate copy of that document as retained by STOP? Your Honor, I'd request to move Exhibit 174 into evidence. Thank you. And so, Ms. Miller, regarding chemical dependency evaluations at STOP, is there a practice to record the date that those evaluations are completed? So if I understand you correctly, when one of these reports is being completed, the date that the report is being completed is auto-filled into the form. You indicated that these evaluations are completed at or near the time that the report of the evaluation is completed at or near the time that the actual evaluation is completed as a matter of practice from STOP. Is that correct? And so does this Exhibit 174 indicate a date that it was prepared? And is it therefore correct that the evaluation would have occurred on or close to December 17th of 2021?
Yes.
Going next to records of participation in treatment, does STOP maintain records of clients' participation in substance abuse treatment as part of the regular course of business? And are those records regarding participation in treatment prepared at or near the time that the treatment is conducted? And are they prepared by a person with knowledge of the actual treatment event? Thank you. Ma'am, have you checked the records at STOP for indication of participation in treatment at STOP by Miriam Zayas? And what did you find? And I'm going to show you Exhibit 175, and I'll pan down these documents and then ask you if you recognize them. Are these all of the documents that you have located in STOP records regarding the mother's participation in treatment at STOP? And are these true and accurate copies of those records? Your Honor, move to admit Exhibit 175. Thank you. So in regards to urinalysis testing, do clients at STOP do UAs on site at STOP? In regards to, well, let me ask you this. Does STOP have a contract with DCYF to perform UVA testing of DCYF clients? And if for clients who perform UAs at STOP via a department contract, what happens to the records of the results of those UAs? What about if a person has there's a DCYF referral for them to participate in UAs, and they don't come to STOP to perform the UAs? Are records maintained by STOP of that? And how are those records prepared? And so those no-show reports are prepared by a person with knowledge of the fact that the client did not appear as scheduled on the indicated date? And are those no-show reports prepared at or near the time that the person fails to appear? Okay, so I'd like to move to showing you a different exhibit then. Did you check STOP records for all of the records regarding no-shows that could be present for Ms. Zayas? And showing you then I'm going to show you a long list of documents and ask you to look at them.
What's the exhibit number, Mr. LaRaus?
Oh, I apologize. Exhibit 159. And while I'm doing this, let me ask you another question. Did you, were these the records of Ms. Zayas's no-shows sent to the department? It looks like page 9 pertains to a different individual. So with the exception of page 9, does this document contain all of the no-show reports for Ms. Zayas? Well, all right, in that case, let me ask you, aside from page 9 of this document, does this contain reports of no-shows for Ms. Zayas at stop? Okay. Your Honor, I would move to admit Exhibit 159 with the stipulation that page 9 does not, in fact, apply to Ms. Zayas and should not be considered in regards to her. I believe, and I'd have to check with the clerk on this, I don't think I'm able to pull 159 and resubmit a new 159, so I think it will have to be submitted under a new exhibit number. Does STOP perform UAs for individuals that aren't based on a referral by DCYF? Does STOP retain the results of those types of UAs? Are those records maintained in the ordinary course of business? Those UA records maintained in the ordinary course of business of STOP? And are those records filed or recorded at or near the time of receipt? Okay. And did you check STOP records for results of UAs received at STOP for Ms. Zayas that were not performed under contract for DCYF? And I'm going to scan down this. Oh, I should ask, did you provide the department with those UA results in response to preparing for your testimony? Okay. And so I'm going to scan down 176. Now, you sent me an additional UA in addition to these results just this morning, is that correct? Aside from that additional UA, which I'll ask you about in a minute, are these the complete records that STOP has of the UA test results for the mother that she performed at STOP, not under DCYF referral? Well, that wasn't the exact objection, but all right. Actually, let me revisit that for just a moment, because we did have the testimony of, in regards to this specific objection, we did have the testimony of the lab provider or the laboratory supervisor, and I'm sorry, I forget her name, but I'm going to look at it very quickly. Well, the objection, let me see, was to, the nature of the objection was to one of these results on page 7. I believe that's the only one. Let me just see if there's another one. Just to point out that the objection was to the statement confirmation not performed or requested, which applies to the UA result on page 7, and which was previously addressed by the laboratory. Yes, based on your experience as a substance use disorder professional, well, let me ask this. You were asked whether CPS can cure drug addiction. You stated that drug addiction isn't cured, it's maintained. Based on your experience as a substance abuse treatment professional, is it possible for persons with addiction disorders to abstain from using substances? And what are the goals of substance abuse treatment? And so does the treatment for that include not only tools to prevent oneself from relapse, but also how to address the underlying issues that cause the desire to use? So you indicated the various factors that the department believed could be contributing to the problems that Amaya had experienced while in her mother's care. Was there, absent the ability to have observed the mother 24/7, could the department do anything more specific other than enter likely risk factors that contributed to the problems that Amaya had experienced? And so, did the department identify remedial services to address those issues that it asked the court to order at the dependency trial? And those included substance abuse treatment and mental health treatment. As to both the mental health issue and the substance abuse issue, the department sought evaluations from providers to determine what, if any, treatment would be appropriate. Is that correct? What are, in your experience as a social worker and social worker supervisor, what are the potential impacts of substance abuse on parenting ability? Okay, thank you. So, Ms. DeCamp, in your the work history which you have previously detailed, have you had occasion to work with parents who are suffering from substance abuse disorders? Can you estimate maybe how many parents you have worked with who have had substance abuse disorders? And the cases that you have worked yourself, have those cases involved parents with substance abuse issues?
Yes, they have.
And about how many cases would you say you've worked on that have involved substance abuse issues? Impacts on parenting ability that you have observed in working those cases that are shared by all or a large portion of the parents with those substance abuse issues. And so in the experience that you've described, have there been issues with parents being able to provide adequate care for their children while they are intoxicated? In addition to a problem of a parent's attention, the focus of their attention while intoxicated, have you ever observed an issue among parents with a change in focus or where their priorities are when they are not intoxicated, but they are focused on obtaining the drugs that they need for their use? In terms of mental health, do you have experience working with families where the parents have mental health issues? And about how many cases have you total that you've supervised and you've worked on in your capacity as this type of social worker? How many of those cases have involved mental health issues? When I asked you about substance abuse, you said 85% of the 40 families you now supervise involve substance abuse, and that you personally worked on 30 other cases that involve substance abuse while working in this role as a social worker. So I would ask for the same information regarding mental health. How many cases you have supervised that involve mental health, and how many cases that you have worked on personally that involve mental health. Whether or not a person's mental health can impact their ability to recognize and meet a child's needs?
Yes, it can.
If a person's mental health is not stable, have you observed that it can actually impair their ability to recognize and meet their child's needs? So in considering how to address the substance abuse issues presented by Ms. Zayas, what are the best ways the department knows of to to attempt to help a parent establish a stable sobriety. Okay. And for the UAs, is it important, in terms of maintaining sobriety, is it important to see that a parent is able to maintain at least 90-day period of not using? Well, Your Honor, I'm sorry to drag this out, but it is part of the elements for termination to show that all appropriate services that are reasonably available were offered. And so I'm trying to have the explain why the department requested specific services, why they believed that they were appropriate. And I forget if it's E, I think it's 1334-180E. Let me just look it up quickly to the court's attention. But that's why it's split up in the trial brief. It's the social worker's testimony explains why these services were reasonable and appropriate. So when the court is tasked with deciding if there were other services that were reasonable or appropriate, the court will have this testimony as to why these specific services were reasonable and appropriate.
Okay.
In assessing the best way to address mental health issues, what does the department, in assessing whether Ms. Zayas has made progress towards reunification, has the department considered her progress in maintaining sobriety? And that progress would be by her participation in treatment and her ability to submit the negative UAs that were ordered. Now, Ms. Zayas has argued that she was able to submit a shorter period of UAs around the time when Anya was born. Yes, so Your Honor, previously we did discuss what Ms. Zayas had or had not done. And at this point, I'm asking for the social worker to explain how the department assesses Ms. Zayas's progress in these various areas. And I will try to be brief, which I am not good at. So, Ms. DeCamp, Ms. Zayas has discussed that she submitted a shorter period of UAs around the birth of Anya. Was that long enough to demonstrate an adequate period of sobriety?
No.
And in terms of Ms. Zayas establishing her sobriety, is it an important factor in terms of her progress that she had positive UAs during the dependency? Yes. When you consider whether Ms. Zayas has made progress in establishing sobriety, do you consider the fact that she has had positive UAs during the course of the dependency? Relapse can be a fact of life for chronic substance users, is that correct? In order to see that a person was making progress towards sobriety, if they had a relapse, what would the department be looking for as signs of those progress? And given her positive UAs during the course of the dependency, what would you be looking for in terms of her making progress following those positive results? Is that the engagement with the chemical dependency professional and sober support that you previously referenced? Also regarding maintenance of sobriety, do you take into account the fact that Ms. Zayas has missed a lot of UAs during the dependency? If a person, let me rephrase that. How would participation in treatment as recommended by Zayas's evaluations, how would that be necessary to support prevention of relapse if Ms. Zayas maintains that she doesn't need a treatment? I'm going to say willing to help her, that's willing to help her not use in the future. Did Ms. Zayas ever tell you that she attempted to participate in treatment, but that she was told that she was not able to participate in treatment if she did not? Have the providers reported that to you? During the period that Ms. Zayas was pregnant, would that have prevented her from participating in treatment? So now I want to ask about assessing Ms. Zayas's progress. in addressing her mental health, what do you look at when assessing Ms. Zayas's progress in addressing her mental health? What do you mean when you say you haven't seen changes in Ms. Zayas's ability to put Amaya's needs before her own? Sorry, was on mute. Before we resume, I did want to note one thing for the record, which is that I'm not 100% sure how much of what Ms. Zayas was saying over the break or when the court resumed was captured on the record, but it did. Okay. Thank you. When we returned on the record and the court started speaking, there was an outburst by Ms. Zayas in which she was speaking to Anya. And so I would like the record to reflect that she was engaging in those behaviors in the presence of that baby, because she was speaking to Anya while she was making her declarations to the court. Okay, just to be clear, did other people hear her speaking to Anya when she was on the record with the court?
Mr. LaRaus, if you want to present evidence, you can present evidence, okay? But don't consult with other parties while we are on the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. DeCamp, were you present when we resumed proceedings a moment ago on the record? And did you hear the statements that were being made by Ms. Zayas when the court was trying to address the issue of her continued participation? And was she, while making those statements, was she addressing the baby Anya? And the mother's, Ms. Zayas's video was not on, is that correct? So we were only relying on what was being stated verbally via the audio. Okay, thank you. I have a few more questions. One is, you were referring to the impacts on Amaya of Ms. Zayas losing visit supervisors due to her behaviors. Can you specify what those impacts were? Okay. And as a result of the changes in visit facilitators or the loss of visit facilitators, were there periods where there was no one to supervise the visits? And was the department able to cover all of the visits for which there were not contracted providers? So would it be accurate to say that as a result of her behaviors and the loss of contracted visitation supervisors that Amaya did miss visits with her mother? To your knowledge, did any of the disruptive behaviors that resulted in loss of contracted visitation supervisors take place in front of Amaya? And do you have a rough estimate of how many contracted visitation supervisors returned a contract and refused to supervise based on Ms. Zayas's behaviors? Going back to something you testified to last week, you testified regarding the mother's reported diagnosis of PTSD. You said you weren't aware of that. Is that correct? But you said you felt that you approached Ms. Zayas appropriately and you wouldn't have changed your approach if you had known she had a diagnosis of PTSD. Did the social workers that you supervised also approach Ms. Zayas in an appropriate manner? And is that something that was discussed in your staffings with those social workers? And when you say work with her effectively, what do you mean by that?